You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. Studio to our regular visitor Malcolm from the Sheppey Horticultural Society, all as part of our regular gardening and allotment plot slot. Malcolm, as always, it's great to have you here in the studio.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Good to be here again. Time goes quickly. Doesn't seem that long since I was here before.
So how are things at the Sheppey Horticultural Society?
Yeah, well, we're still fine. Everything's ticking along steadily at the moment. Membership is still strong. We've still just got just under 200 members. We've had a few of the allotmenteers give up their plots, which is quite normal for early part of the year because that's the time rents are due, and that's the time that a lot of people normally finish with the plots. But the thing is, they've all been snapped up very, very quickly by those that have been waiting. So this means that plot availability is still low. The site at Richmond Street and Nursery Road, that's as before, has a waiting list. There are a few limited number of plots still available at Medway Road, so you could always, if you're still waiting or you would like to try for a allotment plot, could always pop into Medway Road on a Sunday morning and see what's available. And although we're still 4 months away, can I just start giving a gentle reminder that our annual flower and vegetable show is on Bank Holiday weekend, the 26th and 27th of August, not the May Bank Holiday, the August Bank Holiday. And also a reminder that this year it will be held at the Stones Garden Centre halfway.
So what should we be doing on the allotment plot this time of year?
Yeah, well, obviously everybody has their own ideas, but we're really now coming into what should be a very busy time. But unfortunately, the cold and dry April, which seems to be creeping into May as well, has meant that many plants have been unable to get going. So even those started in the greenhouses have struggled, and anyone that has managed to get plants to germinate are rather loath to put them outside just yet. So it looks like it's going to be a bit of a late start this year. Of course, as I said, there are always jobs that can be done, but once the weather does start and cheer up, then this is normally the time of the year that you can be earthing up your potatoes if you put those in earlier and they have managed to start sprouting. I know that we've got some coming through. It's the time that you should be earthing them up. Never let the tubers get near to the light because this produces those poisonous green patches on the potatoes. And if you kept any seed potatoes by just in case, this is really May, the last month that you should be putting them out. And gradually, as we get spells of a bit warmer weather, you can start to put some of your plants that are in the greenhouse outside for a short while to start and harden up, ready for when you do plant them out. Again, depending on weather, you could start and sow some main crop beetroot and winter cabbage, broccolis and swedes, and even parsnips and chard. And then once you can guarantee the bit better weather, that's the time to start putting in courgettes, marrows, squashes, pumpkins, outdoor cucumbers. They can be sown, but still be aware of those cold snaps. And those of you with fruit, you can now cut off runners from the strawberries, which allow the main plants to strengthen themselves and concentrate on giving you some good fruit. Tuck straw under the plants now and fluff it up to keep the base of the plants dry and also to help with airflow. Prune off any unwanted shoots on raspberries. That gives fruit and that a bit of air and a bit of space to produce itself. And if you have got some fruit coming through, don't forget to cover up to protect it from those birds because they're hungry these days and they will pinch your fruit.
So what should we be doing in our garden?
Well, a little bit as with the allotment plots, the gardens have suffered with the weather at this time. But you can do a lot of the basic preparation work, things like weeding, because they always grow no matter what the weather, pruning, thinning out, of course, and there is lawn mowing. And it's also the time of year to get your artistic head on. And how about making a start on trimming and shaping those buxus? See what you can create. And obviously it's normally bedding time at this time of the year, and there are an abundance of plants that one associates with now. Many have been swarming to the garden centres and the nurseries to buy trolleys full of goodies, but just be aware that it is still very cold and for this time of the year. The forecasters, they're still threatening frost, so you've got to remember that many of those plants that you buy from the garden centres, they've been grown under cover or come from abroad, so they will not like our cold snaps one little bit. Be prepared to cover and protect them. You don't want to be going back to the garden centre to spend hard-earned cash replacing all those that you've lost. Well, in the garden, because things are dry, plenty of watering is still required. But the trouble is that water butts are getting very low, and with most people on a water meter, watering has become a bit of a problem. So you have got to water, but just water carefully. An old allotment saying is, water the plants, not the ground, saying which applies very much so to the gardens as well. As we get through May and into June and July, hopefully, he says, with fingers crossed, the weather be more summer-like. Don't forget that the birds are busy feeding their newborn chicks, so continue putting out food and water. And turn small areas in your garden so that they can get at worms and grubs. And those adventurous birds like the robins and the blackbirds, they will virtually stand on your fork as you dig. So when gardening is in full swing, how about trying something a little bit adventurous and try some of the more unusual plants? A couple, for instance, are the Sorbaria, which has a leaf a bit like a very small broom, but they're a lovely light green with a beautiful red tip. Try one of those. If you've got this patch that you've developed and don't quite know what to put in it, try one of those. Or the Polygala, which is a small shrub with a beautiful mauve flower. Both of them are available at your local gardening centres now. So, be a bit adventurous if you wish to.
So we are joined with Malcolm. It's all part of our regular gardening and allotment plot slot. So are there any tips for the next couple of months, perhaps looking a bit ahead?
Yeah, well, again, I keep talking about the weather, but of course if the weather does pick up and plants catch up with themselves, then June is usually a very enjoyable month. Everything should be in full swing and you will start to see the fruits of all your labour. Of course, alongside your crops growing will be the weeds, so hoeing and weeding will be one of the major duties. Watering again if it turns particularly dry. And any covers that you've been using to protect those little plants, they can normally be lifted now because as June comes along, the sort of risk of frosts should be virtually nil. If you were cautious last month and didn't plant out those tender vegetables like your tomatoes and aubergines, and of course we talked about courgettes, marrows, squashes, pumpkins, you should be able to put them out with a reasonable amount of confidence now in June. The cut and come again salad crops, if you've put those in, they should give you a good offering now, so you can start cutting those to have with your salad, and they should continue coming along again. And if you've grown asparagus, you're getting near the edge now really of when the last of this should be available, because you should normally only pick asparagus for a short 6-week period. Your first lot of new potatoes, they're usually ready in June, and they should be quite tasty to dig up and try then. But don't forget to keep an eye on those later potato crops and to keep earthing up. July and August, they're traditionally the driest months, so again watering is still that essential need, and hoeing and weeding as they will still need doing as well. So if things have gone well, and probably the most arduous task will be keeping up with the harvesting. Enjoy the sunshine and take stock of your achievements. And if you're one of those who grow things through the autumn and winter, then enjoy those summer evenings just thinking and contemplating what you're going to sow and plant ready for the autumn and the winter.
Malcolm, just before the news, we're talking about what you can get on with over the next couple of months, and I was hoping you could let us know perhaps around the garden what you can be getting on with in the future.
Yeah, well, there's not really much more to add to what the things you should be doing on your allotment, really. But yeah, again, we talk about the weather and it picks up. And then plants can catch up with themselves in June, July and August. So this is usually the time when everything should be in full swing and you can start and enjoy your garden. Obviously, there's always the lawn to be mowed and the weeds, got to keep the weeds down. And those beautiful flowers, once they start to die off, pick off the dead heads, and that allows the plants to throw out a lot more new plants. You can keep your plants going for most of the summer by doing that. Of course, your hanging baskets, they can be made up fairly soon, but keep them in the greenhouse away from the cold until they're well established. Don't be in too much of a rush to put them out. Pots and containers, well, they can also be made up, and if you're desperate for some colour in your garden and want to put them out, that's fine, but just be prepared to cover them and protect them just a little bit if it does turn a bit cold. But yes, you can get on now and start and enjoy your garden.
So there's lots of more housing sort of developments coming up, and often they probably have smaller gardens. Probably thinking about it, it's even more flats being built. So is this going to become a problem or the end of gardening, do you think?
It doesn't have to. Yes, I know what you're saying. Yes, you see a lot of the places, they're so crammed in now, they appear to have little or no garden at all. But, of course, there's always allotment tiering. You could try and get an allotment plot, but if you're unable to get a plot or you have got limited time on your hands, then why not try and make use of the small area that you have? Perhaps you've only got a small patio area or a balcony or even just a window box, and don't forget that if you've got a little bit of spare wall that you could hang up some hanging baskets, there's lots of things that you could do. So many of the small flowers and shrubs and the bedding plants, they can be grown in pots or containers, and they are things that will give you a wonderful mass of colour and wonderful smells. And there's lots of different containers and pot styles and baskets to choose from. You can get small or big depending what room you've got. But you don't have to be limited to flowers and shrubs. You could grow salad in your boxes, pots or containers, anything like that you can put in, particularly the cut and come again variety. You can put those in, and when you pick and eat a little bit of salad, that will come on through again, and that will give you some sort of produce throughout the season. Trailing tomatoes in hanging baskets can be very successful. You can also get grow bags on sale, and they're specifically made for growing many varieties of veg, such as your tomatoes, your lettuce, your courgettes, your aubergines and cucumbers. And even beans and peas and onions and garlic, they will grow in suitable size containers. Potatoes, you can grow your potatoes if you've got a container large enough, but you can also buy special grow bags for potatoes. And fruit bushes. Fruit bushes are quite happy in containers. Fruit like strawberries and blueberries and even fig trees will fruit better when their roots are confined by a small pot. When I spoke last time that I met Daniel, I spoke about trying herbs, and of course they are excellent for growing in small pots or containers, and they will give you an abundance of lovely smells. And I know that people these days, they're very resourceful recyclers. So you can virtually find anything that will hold earth and soil and for sufficient quantities for plants to grow. And so try and be experimental, see what you can find. So no, it's not the end of gardening. be inventive, and soon you can have a cosy little gardening area in the small limited space that you have. Be adventurous, give everything a try. You can still have good fun with no garden at all.
We've been talking to Malcolm, all as part of our regular gardening and allotment plot. Of course, Malcolm from the Sheppey Horticultural Society. Before we finish, I was hoping you could just refresh our listeners about the show and, of course, any contact details, anything else you'd like to get over.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, it's still 4 months away, but yes, it's our annual flower and vegetable show, which has always been held on the August bank holiday, the Saturday and the Sunday. It used to be at the De Lacy Hall, but things have changed there now, and we're unable to hire it this year, and it looks like for the foreseeable future as well. So we've been allowed a space at the Stones Garden Centre. Now, the plan is that we'll be within a large marquee, and we'll have the same really layout as we had before. So there will be the flower and vegetable categories. There's approximately 100 different categories, and not only the flowers and the vegetables, but on top of that there's the crafts and arts, there's cookery, photography, flower arranging, and also some of those categories also have junior sections for the children. So there's quite a bit for everybody. Now, as I say, those that used to come by and see us at De Lacy Hall, just pop along to us there at Stones. We'd be really pleased to see you. It's slightly experimental, obviously, this year because it's a little bit different, but we're hoping that it's going to go well. And in fact, we've got sort of quite. We're confident that it's going to be another really good show. So it'd be great to see you if you're that way down. Details and bits and pieces, if you just keep an eye on Daniel's web pages here, there'll be information about it as we get nearer the time. And also there is the horticultural's website, and again we'll give a little bit more information nearer the time. And yeah, come on down and see us August bank holiday.
Well, Malcolm, as always, thank you very much for coming along. It's always appreciated, and it's good to have you back in the studio.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Glad to come along. And say the time seems to race round so quick. It doesn't seem 5 minutes since I was here before, but yeah, enjoyed it.
That is Malcolm, all as part of our regular gardening and allotment plot slot. Of course, we catch up with Malcolm once every couple of months with a little update, Malcolm, from the Sheppey Horticultural Society.